This episode is brought to you by BetUS.com. Go to BetUS.com and get yourselves a 125% sign up bonus using the promo code Nino's Corner at BetUS.com. Folks, go download that BetUS.com.
Yo, 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 yo. What's up, folks? See my boy Odd Futures in the building right now. And give me the horns up, man. Look, Texas secured the number one recruiting class in the country per the On Three metrics, man. The On Three composite. Outstanding haul by Texas. You can see Steve Sarkisian is definitely building his team the way that he wants to build it. He's addressing all the needs. Folks, like I told you guys before, in the previous years, we had one of the worst offensive line hauls in the Big 12 over like a 5-year span, right? And so in that first year, he comes in and he gets to Kelvin Banks Jr.'s and his first real year, not the actual transition year. What's up, Quentin A? So he gets the Kelvin Banks Jr.'s and the Campbells and the Cole Hudsons and the Ogbos and the Netos. He gets all those guys, right? And then he builds upon that. He ends up building up the guys at the wideout position, man, going into the high school realms and also going into the portal, getting guys like AD Mitchell. And then this year getting a Bond and the Golden and Silas Bolden. And then just over the years, he's come in and he's kind of, just fortified just the entire team. Let's look at just like the linebacker position, going to get guys like, Anthony Hill, right? Edge rusher was a big problem, for Texas. Texas goes out and gets some outstanding edge rushers. And the Colin Simmons goes out and gets a Vasek. He actually gets guys like Ethan Burke and Baron Sorrell, gets those guys developed, right? We're seeing that not only can Steve Sarkisian go to the portal and get guys, not only can he go and get guys from high school, but he can also develop these guys. And that's what we're seeing. The last 3 years, Texas has put 2 to 3 guys from that defensive line in the NFL. You look at Coburn and also Ojimo in that first year. Last year, guys, we had Sweat and Byron Murphy. This year, we're looking at Alfred Collins is going to get drafted this year, and so is Vernon Broughton. You're seeing that Sark is taking care of business, and I kind of want to lead off with, how about some comments right quick? Let's look at some comments. Sean Kennedy goes, Nino, let's take care of business on Saturday, bro, so we can shut all these haters up. Exactly, man. These haters gonna hate, man. They hate us because they ain't us, right? Georgia is magically worried about NIL now because we're in the SEC and when it comes to NIL, we can kind of dominate that kind of spectrum, right? Georgia's worried about the NIL, and I just saw a post from my guy from inside Texas, man, Eric Naline. And, so they had about 7 5-stars when they had, Justin Fields. So there was not a problem in the pre-NIL era with them getting 5 stars and wondering how they're getting all these 5 stars in. But now it's a problem when Texas comes. And I put a post out there on Twitter earlier today that says, yeah, Texas, man, hey, SEC, we just take notice. It means more in Texas too when it comes to football, right? But Sark, like honestly, just to get back to what I was just talking about, just seeing how Texas has just kind of fortified every position that we thought was a negative on this team. We have fortified that to make it a positive. The offensive line was definitely a negative, with Sark coming in. We got dominated by Arkansas in that first year. And you can see Sark made a great emphasis to build up that entire offensive line. Wide receiver position, we had so many wide receivers. We had 50 million wide receivers on the team when we had Tom Herman on the team, but not enough offensive linemen. That's a whole other story. But they weren't the wide receivers that are going to work well in the Steve Sarkisian system. Steve Sarkisian likes speed. He loves speed on the team, right, folks? Especially at the wide receiver position. We had a bunch of tall, lanky guys who didn't have a bunch of speed. Sark was able to scheme around it for his first year or two, but when he got the players that he wanted into this program, we're seeing what this team can do now. Seeing a guy like Xavier Worthy, how he did it in a Sark system. Seeing a guy like AD Mitchell, him coming on, seeing a Isaiah Bond, seeing a Matthew Golden, seeing a Silas Bolden, seeing guys that Steve Sarkisian has also recruited, and a DeAndre Moore. Seeing guys like a Ryan Wingo. We're hearing a lot of scuttle in the backgrounds about Parker Livingstone. You are hearing a lot about a bunch of players that Sark has recruited that are going to do some great things here at Texas, and I think Texas fans understand that. But let's get back to this recruiting class, man. I want to share my screen. Let's take a look and see exactly what I'm talking about. You guys want to see me? Want to see this? All right. Texas, man, number one recruiting class in the country, as you can see. 4 or 5 stars from the composite ranks, but once you look at the individual sites, you got about 7 5-stars on this team, folks. But we are, just ahead of Bama. Bama had a great class this year too. Oregon had a really good class too as well. Georgia had a good class as well. But let's talk about Alabama. Let's talk about Texas. Why say Alabama? I'm saying Alabama because my wife's in Alabama right now, and I'm paying some single dad ops right now. But look, man, we talked about that defensive line first. I want to talk about what's up, CB. What's up, CB? I see he's on the channel. He's always in the channel. CB, he's a lifetime fan of the channel, and guess what, man? We love some CB around here, man. But look, man, Texas has definitely had to shore up that defensive line. And we can just go down just the ranks here. Lance Jackson, man, seeing what this guy's going to do. He's already 6'5", 270, 280 pounds right now in high school. And this guy coming off the edge is like a Baron Sorrell starter kit with more ceiling. I mean, this is going to be freaking amazing. You fortify that nice edge position by putting in a guy like Lance Jackson. Let's go back down to some other defensive linemen that I want to talk about. Oh man, come on, man, Smith Orogbo. This kid is awesome too at the edge at 6'4", 220 pounds. But let's look at the interior. Myron Charles, man, 6'4". I think he's more like not 300, probably around 315 or so. Outstanding player, man. Coming out of Florida, and those guys from Florida, these big balls of clay. One of my favorite guys. So, man, it's got to be this kid from Sacramento, California, man. I love me some Sharma. Him coming down to the wire, us getting him and maintaining him. You see what Sark's doing. He is maintaining and building that depth in the trenches. All right, getting a Sharma. Getting a guy like, Myron Charles. And then also let's scroll down to the last person on this list. So we just got today, Justice Terry, the 6'5", 275-pound defensive lineman that everybody in the country wanted. It's a national top 10 player in the country. He's national top 9 when it comes to the on-3 composite. We've seen other sites have him as high as the number 7 ranked player in the country. Not the state of Georgia, in the country. Texas goes and gets this kid. Hey, man, go check out my homeboy, 40 Acre Landlord. Go to his Twitter site, and you're going to see this picture that he had coming out of 8th grade. This kid like a monster. He seemed like he can play college football coming out of 8th grade, man. This kid was outstanding. But Texas is able to go fortify the interior of this defensive line, getting a Justice Terry, getting a Sharma, getting a Myron Charles, and then looking at Lance Jackson, folks. Lance Jackson, is he going to maintain on the edge at 6'5", 270, 280 pounds? He's that right now. When he gets into a real college strength and conditioning program, what is he going to look like? What is Lance Jackson going to look like? Will he be one of those guys that's going to be a 315 kind of guy? Do you play him on the edge, or do you move him back to the inside? Guys, that is one of those. This is a great problem for Texas to be able to have guys that can be versatile. Guys that can come in and do great things, man. They're going to be a versatile team here. And Sark is recruiting his butt off, man, and he's also going to hit the portal. We understand that we thought that this defensive line was going to take a step back. Most people did once we lost, Sweat and, Byron Murphy last year. This defense is probably the best defense in the country this year because Sark was able to throw sheer numbers at the defensive line. And not only do that, but you got a guy like Anthony Hill who has stepped up and he's taken that next step as a true sophomore. You have guys like Barron who are able to be Swiss Army knives, and we got some players in this class that I want to talk about this, which are also Swiss Army knives as well. And the main person, man, is Jonah Williams. Where does he play? He's a guy that can play everywhere. He can play offense. He can play defense. You know that he's going to play baseball this year too. He is that kind of special athlete, 5-star plus athlete, man. He's a national, top 10 player pretty much, man. He's the number one position. He's number one player at his position at safety. So you're seeing a guy like Jonah Williams, man, who can play safety. He can play a little bit of H back. He can do a little bit of everything, man. That's one of those guys that you need on your team because he can play running back. He can play. I've seen comps to where my boy Steven, man, he has said that he looks at him as like a little Jordan Humphrey starter kit, which is pretty awesome because we see what Humphrey can do right now, man. He's still, getting paychecks in the league and he's catching touchdowns for the Denver Broncos. But a guy like Jonah Williams, man, kind of has that same build, that same ilk, but he's a bigger guy, man. Wider shoulders, bigger frame. Just a guy that you can tell that the bulk is going to come on him. You can see this guy easily gaining another 20, 25 pounds in a college system. And if that happens, man, he's going to be a monster at about 230 pounds, man, at about 6'3", 230 pounds, and a guy that can either play the safety position or if Sark wants to utilize his talents and put him on the offense side of the ball, you see him at the H-back position where you can flex him out. He's a guy that can probably play a little bit of tight end, line up in the backfield, play a little bit of fullback, also be a nice lead blocker, or you put him on the edge and have him be one of those flex tight ends that can go out and stretch the field as well with the size and the speed combination. Jonah Williams, outstanding pickup. Vic, what's going on, Vic? I see Victor Santiago. Something, it's been a while. Yeah, man, it's been crazy, man. Vic working a lot of the Bleacher Report stuff. You guys see me doing that. So I'm always on that, man, on Fridays and also on Saturday. So I got a Bleacher Report show tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, post game after the Texas Georgia game. And you guys see me on guest features with other sites too as well, with Homer and Inside Texas and folks, and also with the SC Connect, man. I've been busy, but it's been a great ride. Next guy I'm gonna talk, man, wide receiver position. One thing that Sark has done extremely well since he has been here at Texas is recruit the wide receiver position extremely well, man. Getting Xavier Worthy to transfer when he first came in. And then seeing just the guys who have come in. I think Ryan Niblett was it 2 years ago, right? The first year was Xavier Worthy. Then getting a guy like who was it? BT Brennan Thompson, who's now at Oklahoma. But getting guys like a Ryan Niblett to come in, getting guys like a DeAndre Moore to come in too as well. Sark's done a really good job at getting the guys that he likes to fit his system and his team. Now, if we're going to take a look at what he did here in this class this year, getting a Lockett, who's a 5-star guy too as well at that wideout position too as well. Outstanding player. He's more than a jump ball guy. A lot of people are going to turn in the film and see this guy doing a lot of jump balls. This guy's outstanding. Have him paired with a guy like Jamie French. Yes, Jamie French, folks. He's another 5-star guy. He's not a 5-star composite, but sites have him at 5-star. I think Rivals has him as a 5-star. But he's a guy that can do stuff like a Ryan Wingo. I mean, he's outstanding. A big kid too, at 6'1", about 190 pounds or so. But just a very knowledgeable kid. I love to see him in his interviews. I think that's kind of his natural setting. All right. He's a guy that you want to be able to sell your team. Right, because he's one of those guys that's going to tell you the pluses and minuses of everything, but show you the benefits of coming to a team like Texas. He is so just very well versed when it comes to the game of football. I love seeing his interviews. He's mature way beyond his years, man. So having a guy like Jamie French, who is going to hit that weight room, who is going to hit that film room, him couple that with Lockett, and I think the next guy I want to talk about, man, is where's the other wide receiver? Dalen McCutcheon, man. This is a guy that you look at a guy like Jordan Whittington, and then you look at a guy that was kind of the glue for this team at the wide receiver position. Didn't get the most touches, right? Because he had A.D. Mitchell on one side, Xavier Worthy on one side, but you had Jordan Whittington playing in the slot. But who does he take under his wing? DeAndre Moore. Right, so you have DeAndre Moore on his wing, who was soaking in game from Whittington, and then you have a guy like, I like this kid, man, Dalen McCutcheon. You have him be one of those guys that's going to soak in the knowledge from a guy like Moore, and he's going to be that Swiss Army knife on the offense to where he can be that wide receiver in the slot who's going to do the dirty work, man. And you need those guys. And those guys have long careers in the NFL. Look, man, Jordan Whittington didn't have the best stats here at Texas. He couldn't. He was playing behind a first-round draft pick and a guy who should have been a first-round draft pick in A.D. Mitchell, but was a high second-round draft pick. Jordan Whittington right now is one of the guys who the LA Rams, when you see him on social media, they're featuring him like he's a first-round draft pick. They love from Jordan Whittington. So he's a guy that's going to have a long career because of all the dirty work that he's done in Texas. And I see a guy like Dalen McClutchin having that same kind of impact and the spark, a guy that's going to wait his turn in the reins, and come out in his second or third year and just be a bona fide monster, man. You love what you're seeing from Texas at that wide receiver position. Just kind of staying on the offensive side of the ball. Michael Terry, where's he going to play? Where's Terry going to play, man? He's a guy that's just an athlete. We seen him play everywhere in high school. He's playing play defense. He's playing play offense. He's one of those guys that he's just a football player, folks. He is a football player. So where does Sark line him up? He can play H-back, right? He can play some tight end. He can play some wide receiver as well. He can play defense as well. He is one of those guys that you gotta love what you see in him, man, because Texas has just hit it out the park when it comes to just the overall class this year. Let's look at some of the defensive backs, man. Getting a guy like Cade Phillips to come back into this class. We had Cade Phillips before, out of Mo City in Texas. So he was in the class before, flips to LSU, and then flips back to the University of Texas, man. This Texas defensive back, class is a thing of beauty. Right. It's Texas has definitely recruited themselves and, to get some of the top talent, not only in the state, but around the country, man. But getting a guy like Cade Phillips to come back at about 6'1" and 185 pounds, man. 5-star guy too as well. So 5-star from a couple sites, if not mistaken. He's a 5-star from On3, a national top 23 player. But the composite, he's a national top 34 player. I think the top 33 players this year were 5-star guys. But having, like Cade Phillips come in, you couple, Cade Phillips with other defensive backs we got, what I'm saying? So Littleton's a baller, man, a very physical player too. If you've watched his film, Littleton is a beast. And you couple him, we had one other cornerback. He's a little farther down on the list. He was a 3-star guy. So Caleb Chester, what I'm saying? So coming out of Fort Bend Marshall, out of Mo City, Texas as well. I think it's a hell of a class. A hell of a class from the cornerback position. But not only did we get those guys from the cornerback position, we got some guys that can play safety too as well. Getting Gonzalez Hicks to come in this class to reclassify from the 2026 class out to 2025, getting him to stay in the class because there was some scuttle around him, possibly leaving the class too as well, man. But Texas was able to keep every one of their recruits and not get anyone flipped here on National Signing Day, from Wednesday to Friday. Texas had an outstanding haul. So you couple this class when it comes to the defensive backs with what we got in the previous years, which are Kobe Blacks, who was playing great. Your Johnson Rebel, your Phil Sami. You got guys who are going to come in and compete next year and be outstanding with the talent that's already here at Texas, man. Getting a guy like Manny Muhammad, who's probably going to be on his last year next year, but he's going to be probably the leader in that room, him and a Derek Williams. And if Taft decides to come back, but you couple that with the guys like a Kobe Black and like a, 25, man, I love me some Jelani McDonald. And you kind of couple that with a Phil Sami and a Johnson Rebel and a Santana Wilson. And then the 4 guys that we got here in this class as well. Hey, man, Texas is on the right path. They're on the right path. They're recruiting their butts off. But that's at the haul for the defensive back side of the ball. Let's talk about the main guy, man. Anytime you talk about a Sark offense, you want to know who is going to be the signal caller. The signal caller on this team, guys, I think we all know is KJ Lacey. Now, I know a lot of fans, excuse me, guys, need a drink. Mouth's a little dry. Looking at Keelan Russell and seeing what Keelan Russell has done, folks, at Duncanville, I know a lot of fans are probably like, why didn't we go after Keelan Russell? Like, like we thought that some fans thought that this staff should have gone after Keelan Russell is an outstanding talent. I have a friend that actually is on that Duncanville coaching staff, and he's saying Keelan Russell is a beast. Yes, he is. He is. But once you look at a Sark system and what Sark wants out of his system, I think KJ Lacey is going to be a great fit. You got to stop looking at the stars sometimes, folks, and just see the fit for a offense. And folks, looking at a guy like Lacey, hey man, KJ Lacey coming in from Alabama is the number one. He should be the top quarterback in that state, but he's the top quarterback in the record books of that state, man. I think he's going to break the record tonight. I think he needs 265 yards passing to be the leading passer all time in the state of Alabama, especially for his class coming out of that area, man. KJ Lacey, I think, is a perfect fit here for Sark's offense. He gets the ball out very quick. You start to look at Arch Manning and how much quicker he gets that ball out compared to anybody else on this roster. Look at KJ Lacey's trigger. It's the same way. It's not, I don't think it's as fast as Arch's, but he has a quick trigger, a very quick trigger. And if you look at KJ Lacey, man, the only thing that's knocking him is that he's 5'11", man. That's it. Arm talent is there. He's a guy that's already up to 180 pounds. You see him filling out at that 5'11", maybe 205 kind of range. He's not a guy that's going to scramble. He's not a dual threat guy. He's a guy that is going to move around to make plays in the pocket. That's what KJ Lacey does. He's going to move around to assure that his guys could open and make a play down the field with his guys. I think he's going to fit the Sark system extremely perfect, to be honest with you. Extremely perfect, man. I'm excited about KJ Lacey and what he can do for this team. But the great thing about this, man, is you're not going to need KJ Lacey for a couple of years, barring injury, because we got Arch Manning starting next year, and barring injury, I think Arch is going to probably play a couple years. And I just put a video out of his grandfather, Archie Manning, saying that he wants Arch to stay 3 years. He wants him to play football for 3 years in college, and then he wants him to go get drafted by the Cowboys. I didn't say it. Archie said it, but if that holds up, let's say Arch Manning does it 3 years, you're looking at a guy like KJ Lacey, potentially being a redshirt sophomore before he comes in and starts. And so he has the entire Sark playbook just perfectly learned, just like Arch is doing right now, where he's learning that playbook outstandingly. Just like Quinn, he's learned his playbook for 3 years. So you're seeing what Sark is doing. He's building depth in every position, especially in the most important position at that QB position. And we know what Sark does with QBs, and we've seen his track record with Tua, and we've seen it with Mac Jones. Casey Thompson was an all Big 12 performer underneath Sark. Think about that for a minute. He's a 4th-stringer right now in OU. That should tell you something. We've seen what he's done with the maturation process of Quinn Ewers. And we're seeing exactly what can be done with Arch Manning here pretty soon too as well. Vic has another comment, says, and we ain't done yet. Portal additions are coming soon. Exactly. Portal's coming soon, man. Mark Rema. Yeah. Mark, what's going on, man? It's been a while, brother. It's been a while. Horns always up, baby. We talked about the wide receivers. We talked about the defensive line. We talked about the linebackers, right? We talked about the defensive backs. We talked about the athletes. We talked about the quarterback. Tight ends, man. Nick Townsend and Emory. What's Emory's last name? It's Winston, right? Emory Winston. I always forget his last name. Yep. Emory Winston. 2 guys that are, 4-star guys. I think Emory's a 3-star composite. But Townsend, man, Townsend is one of those guys he might be one of the top 50 to 100 players in the country. Film was great size. You see what Sark's doing too at the tight end position. He is bringing in a bunch of talent that is going to compete. Right now, folks, you got Juan Davis on the team. You got Gunnar Helm. I think we understand that both of those guys are going to be gone this year, right? Next year, who steps up? I think Washington steps up. I think Washington's going to be a great addition. Does Niblack stay? That's the question. I think I would want to stay in the Steve Sarkisian offense as a tight end. We've seen what he's able to do with a guy like JT Sanders going into the draft this past year, 4th-round draft pick with the Carolina Panthers. And if he tested well or tested better than what he did, he's a 2nd-round pick easy.
I see that Gunnar Helms probably going to be one of those guys who's going to be one of the top tight ends taken in the draft this year. Those guys are gone. Juan Davis is gone. So this is a time where you're going to have a lot of competition at that tight end position. I can see a guy like Washington coming in and starting next year. And Sark loves to run 12 personnel. He's ran it about 39% of the time this year. I think a total about 318 plays so far this year. So he loves 12 personnel, which if anybody knows 12 personnel is one running back, two tight ends. So you're going to have Washington and somebody else. Is it a Niblack? Does he come in and do his thing, right? Or does he transfer out again? Who knows? I would hope Niblack will stay so that it'll give an opportunity for guys like a Spencer Shannon and a Will Randall to actually compete to as well and not have to be forced to start if they're not ready to start. I think Niblack will be one of those guys who should be ready to go full speed ahead next year with a full system, a full year in that Sark system, right? But having Nick Townsend and also Winston come in too, man, nothing but death. And these guys be able to compete, and it makes your team better when the floor of your team is guys that can start at a bunch of schools. That's that this team is rocking. Next group I want to talk about, folks. Let's talk about the running backs. James Simon, man, from Shreveport, Louisiana, my hometown, Shreveport, Louisiana, Calvary Baptist. Man, shout out to Shreveport, man. That's the city that raised me and the city that made me. James Simon's a very versatile back too as well. And we got a guy, so Ricky Stewart Jr., coming out of Chapel Hill in Tyler, Texas. Look, none of these guys are the typical guys that we have gotten in these past few cycles, right? We had that guy every cycle, right? We had CJ Baxter last year. Well, I'm sorry, 2 years ago. Last year, getting a Christian Clark, right? Jared Gibson. Clark, I thought, was one of the most underrated, running backs coming out of the country last year. Jared Gibson was a fringe 5-star guy coming out of IMG. He always has a bell cow that is a highly ranked guy. So prior to that, we had the Brooks, who was a top back in the state a couple years prior to that. We also had Jaden Blue, who was the top running back in the country before sitting out the senior year. We've always gotten guys that were the top at something, right? I think this year, man, I think Texas has kind of hit a home run with these guys with a James Simon and also a Stewart Jr. too as well. Just for the simple fact that these guys can be guys that are going to come and put their head down and work hard. You know what I'm saying? Guys that aren't, what's the right way to say this? Guys that aren't going to look and come in and expect to start right away. They understand that the talent level in front of them is there for a reason, right? There are guys that are going to start. We're seeing Baxter's going to play a lot next year. Guess who else is going to play a lot? Trey Wisner. We're seeing Trey Wisner's worth. Just to this team. He is an outstanding running back with a lot of patience. Does Jaden Blue stay around, right? So those are three guys that are going to be eating up a lot of snaps if Blue stays around. If not, Jared Gibson's here. Christian Clark's here. You know what I'm saying? Then you couple that with James Simon, and you couple that with Stewart Jr. too as well. You know what I'm saying? And I like Mr. Ricky Stewart Jr., man. I think he's very undervalued too as well. But both of these guys are the perfect sizing combo for a SEC back, man. Both from about 5'11", 185 pounds, I think, for Stewart Jr., and I think for Simon, he's around about 200 pounds or so already. Both of these guys, you can see them bulking up because they got the frame for it. The 210 for probably Ricky, and probably 215, 220. You know what I'm saying, for James Simon. You see the frame on those guys, and you let those guys kind of sit and get seasoned, in the program and the system. Nothing but great things can come from those guys, especially going into their second and third year where their body has matured. And now Texas is going to have a factory of running backs that are going to be coming out because they have established just exactly what needs to happen in the depth. And also we're seeing the development of these players. You're seeing what Choice is doing with his running backs. You're seeing what Nansen is doing on the defense side of the ball and helping out with PK. You're seeing the development of our defensive backs, man. And I kind of want to bend this to Vic's comment, man. Vic says we need Taft, Trey Moore, and Golden to come back. Yeah, man. But hey, I'm never going to tell one of them guys to not go get that money, man. Hey, man, if Taft can go get drafted, hey, Taft, get that money, baby. Hey, Mookie, get that money. Trey Moore, I think Trey Moore has a lot more to show,
right? I love what Trey Moore is doing on these last 3 or 4 games, but I think even Trey Moore will probably tell you he probably thinks he has a lot more that he can put on film, right? And so, but I would love to have Trey Moore back, like just for the simple fact that it gets us some more people on the edge because we know that Barron Sorrell is going to be gone this year. But yeah, if they test well and they get invited to the combine and they know that they're going to get drafted and third round pick or better, you got to go. Golden, that's the tricky one, man. I don't know what's gonna happen with Matthew Golden because he's showing out, man. I think he's leading all the SEC wide receivers in touchdown catches. It's like he's Chris Carter of the SEC, so like all Golden does is just catch touchdowns, right? But Golden is one of those guys who he's not elite at anything, but he's good at every damn thing, right? And so that's the thing with Matthew Golden that you got to look at. I think teams are really, really going to look at and say that he's one of those guys that can be a plug and play. That he's not gonna wow you on everything, but he's going to wow you on the interview probably. He's going to wow you on this on just his knowledge of the game and his effort, and he's just really good at everything. I mean, he has great hands. He can just pinpoint balls all the time. He is just an outstanding player, but he's not just great at one thing. He doesn't have a Superman asset, which makes him very versatile because you don't have to pigeonhole him into anything. So Richard Mergler goes, yo, our D gonna clap cheeks this next year. Exactly, man. I'm excited about the defense, especially that defensive line. I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited about what this Texas team has done for this defensive line over this cycle, which is going to be able to build depth. One thing that Texas is going to have to do, we only got one true defensive tackle last year, I think in last year's cycle in Alex January. We got Melvin Hills too, but Melvin Hills is so versatile, man. I think Melvin Hills, who's a friend of the channel, he's been on this channel twice already, for interviews. But I think Melvin Hills is probably one of those guys you can line up inside, you can line up outside. He's going to be a very versatile guy. So you couple that with who they have from a couple years ago, Aaron Bryant, right? And then couple it with this group, man, Sharma and Myron Charles and Justice, man, this team's gonna be sick. But I think we're 1 year away from having the defensive depth on that defensive line. I think we're 1 year away. This year, I think we've got to go back to the portal again this year for the defensive line if some of our guys are not able to come back. But I want to talk about development. Right? I want to talk about development, but hold on. Vic says, Golden just scores TDs. Good problem to have. Exactly. Richard Mergler says, Kenny Baker's proven himself in a single year as a developer and a recruiter. Exactly. To see what Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton have done, we've seen flashes of both of them throughout the years, right? We're seeing them being consistent. Is it because it's a money year? I don't know. Is it because they're getting developed underneath Baker? That might be it too. Is a combination of both, right? Broughton flashed a lot last year. Very quick first step. Broughton's pads were getting high when he first got in. You can tell he has definitely worked on that. Alfred Collins, we all know what Alfred Collins can do. Lifetime Longhorn. Tim Crowder has come on my channel before and said that the guy who, if he flips the switch, is going to be the most dangerous player in his defense, especially on the line, is going to be Alfred Collins. He said that about 3 years ago, right? So seeing Alfred Collins, seeing what he's doing now, I love it. So who's going to be next, right? That's the question. Who's going to be the next crop of guys next year? Who's going to be those guys? I think Texas has to hit the portal this year for defensive line. I think next year, 2026, is when you see those guys like the Alex Januaries and the Melvin Hills. 2026 might be the year that this will be the second year for this class this year, with Justice, man. I think Justice Terry is going to be a guy that's going to play a lot next year. I do, man. Sharma's one of my favorite guys in the class. Myron Charles. I think next year you're going to see Justice Terry be, I think, the guy out of that class that's going to play. I think the following year, all three of them are going to be dangerous. You couple that with Alex January to plug the middle, Melvin Hills, You couple that with those guys and then supplementing off the portal too as well. It's gonna be a dangerous defense, man. King Kunta, what's up, baby? He said, Nino, what's happening? Yeah, Vic also goes, Bledsoe jumped in the portal the other day. Yeah, Bledsoe jumped in the portal today, wasn't it? Or was it yesterday? That's a guy that I hate to lose. But, we've heard the stories about Bledsoe, about what he can be, but we just haven't seen it yet. So, Albert Lane goes, we need a kicker bad. Michael Jackson bad. We do need a kicker. But one position group that I don't think we got like that star-studded guy, right? But I'm not worried about. That's offensive line. I'm not worried about it this year. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm not worried about it this year. Because we saw what Cal Flood has done with the offensive line over the years, right? We've seen that if he has time to develop somebody, development is key. He has a type. He knows the guys that he likes. He likes big guys that have to be developed. In offensive lineman, unless you're Kelvin Banks Jr., unless you're special like that. I think Connor Williams started as a true freshman too. He's All-American too as well. I think Cosme started as a true freshman. It is so hard to start a guy at left tackle of all positions as a true freshman. You're going against one of the best pass rushers on the team, day in and day out, for their opposing team. Kelvin Banks Jr. was able to do that flawlessly. So those guys are the exception, not the rule, right? And so those are things that you got to look at when it comes to look at this offensive line. But Cal Flood knows how to develop players, right? If I had told you 2 years ago that Jake Majors is going to be one of the top centers in the country and he's probably going to get drafted, or 3 years ago, a lot of people looked at Jake Majors as a liability. He is not a liability. Jake Majors has been fully developed, and he's one of the guys that's going to get drafted this year, and one of the leaders of this team, and one of the glue guys for the offensive line. We've seen what Cal Flood has done with Kelvin Banks Jr. as a true freshman, seeing the maturation process of him every year in and year out, right? Freshman All-American. Last year, I think he should have been an All-American. He didn't get it, but he's going to be a definite All-American this year. If not the best tackle in the country, he's one of the best tackles in the country. Top 10 pick, folks. Now, let's go to the other side at the right tackle position. And this is where Cal Flood really earns his money, right? This is where Cal Flood earns his money. Is he goes and tells somebody, hey, I had a guy named Cam Williams, right? And I told him to sit. For a couple years. And in your third year, you're going to be one of the guys that's going to come in. And you're so good, I think you can get drafted after 1 year film. Cam Williams, my friends, is mocked to be a first-round draft pick this year after 1 year of play. So you're seeing how he develops players. Look at Christian Jones for the last couple of years. Got drafted. It's a guy that we thought was not going to get drafted. Cal Flood's development, outstanding. So I'm not worried about the development. Hayden Connors, one of the best pass blocking guards in the country, not just in the SEC, in the country. Hayden Connors probably going to get drafted this year, right? I wouldn't say probably. I think he is going to get drafted this year. It's the Cal Flood effect, baby. DJ Campbell. It's a guy, I hope DJ comes back because I love to see DJ on this line for another year. I love his tenacity. I love his nastiness on the line. I would love to have DJ Campbell come back. You couple that with a guy like Cole Hudson. Let's talk about those two for a while. DJ Campbell and Cole Hudson, they've been rotating in and out at that right guard position. Nasty. Both of them. Having a line where you're seeing guys get developed. And when you don't talk about development, let's talk about our backup left tackle who had just got thrown in when Kelvin Banks went out extremely early in the previous game against Texas A&M. A guy named Trevor Gooseby, who's also been on the Nino's Corner channel. Got interviewed him as a fresh 17-year-old when he committed to Texas. That's a 3-star recruit. It's a guy that got developed, and there was no drop-off. There was no drop-off, and Kelvin Banks Jr. went out against A&M. Gooseby played outstanding. and his dad, Michael Gooseby, is also great to the channel too. I'm pretty sure Mike's been in the channel quite a bit sometimes too. So, but I go to say all that for the simple fact that when you look at these offensive line guys who have been recruited here for this class in 2025, you got Nick Brooks out of Georgia. It's a guy that a lot of teams want. I think Georgia wanted him. 6'2", 6'7", 360-pound guy, man, if not more than that. Just a 4-star recruit, 3-star on one side. I think On3 had him as a 3-star. His composite is a 4-star. He's a low 4-star, national top 300 player, right? 302. Then you go back to a Jackson Christian, 3-star recruit out of Port Neches, Texas, man. He's a composite 3-star. Nobody ranked him as a 4-star, right? 6'5", 290-pound guy, right? Then you go down to the Coleman brothers. They got triplets. Jordan Coleman. You got Devin Coleman. Jordan is 6'5", 315. I think Devin's around the same size. Both of those guys are 3-stars out of Cedar Hill. National top 700 player. Top 1,000 player for Devin Coleman. And their triplet brother, he's a defensive tackle. I think he's a preferred walk-on. So you're looking and saying, we got these 4 guys on the line, right? Let me stop sharing the screen. So you're seeing that and you're saying Texas has these 4 guys that they recruited for the offensive line. And neither one of these guys are just world beaters. They're not the Kelvin Banks Jr.'s that we see. They're not the DJ Camp. They're not the top of the – I'm not worried because we're seeing what Cal Flood has done when it comes to the actual development of players. We saw what he did with Christian Jones, right? We saw what he's done with guys like Jake Majors. We've seen what he has done with Hayden Connor over his career. We're seeing the development of DJ Campbell and Cole Hudson and what they've done. We're seeing that each year these guys get better and better. One of the guys that I would have loved to have seen Cal Flood have 2 or 3 years with is probably Topi Amadi. With his body frame and size, I think he would have been outstanding in a system with Cal Flood. But development's not a problem. I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. I think in this upcoming year, you're going to have a guy like Trevor Gooseby. He's going to man that left side of the line. The right tackle position is probably going to be a Brandon Baker if Cam does not decide to come back. And then you got guys in the trench who've been waiting: Neto, Connor Stroh, Andre Kojo, Jaden Chapman, right? I mean, you got all those guys who I've interviewed on this channel too, by the way, man. I got to get my plugs in, man. I am that guy. You know what I'm saying? Besides, I didn't interview Neto, but I interviewed Kojo and I interviewed Chapman. I've interviewed Connor Stroh and interviewed those guys, man. But those guys have been developing. And they understand, they see what's happening. They see Cam coming in his 3rd year and be able to come in and be a certified bad. You know what? They seen Campbell and Hudson, how great they become every year. And I think that the guys that Texas has coming into this program now, with the Jackson Christian and the Coleman twins, the Coleman triplets, 2 of them that are playing on the offensive line, and Nick Brooks, those guys know that they just wait their turn. Next thing for them is going to be draft pick. Cal Flood has his type, and all these guys are his type. You can't teach size. You can't teach speed. You can't teach footwork. You can teach footwork, but you can't teach how the guy. You can't teach a guy to be more nimble, right? You either got it or you don't. All right. You can't teach a guy to be 6'7", 360. You either got it or you don't. There's not a lot of those guys walking around, right? So Cal Flood seems to find those guys, and he seems to understand that that's what he needs on his offensive line. Our future goes, I think Kojo will be a sleeper by the time he fully matures. Yeah, he still. Let me see. He was 16 when he came in, right? So this is the start of his 3rd year, right, or 2nd year, because him, Gooseby, Connor Stroh, all those guys came in. This is the start of his 2nd year. Yeah, I think he's 18 still. King Kunta says, what's my score prediction? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Our future goes, there was hella players Texas had I laughed at and thought of being drafted. What a turnaround we had with Sark. Pay him his money. Sark got an extension. He got his money, man. Sark got his money. I know, but seeing the development of this team and these players, man, who would ever thought Like some of the players that we have seen that didn't get developed. Who'd have thought that some of these guys were going to get drafted, right? So interesting. Oh man. So Vic says he heard that Banks is out for tomorrow's game. Gooseby starting. If that's the case, man, Gooseby had a great lesson yesterday. Not yesterday, but last week against A&M, and it's only going to help him against Georgia this week. That's all I can say. He played at Cal Field too, which is a difficult place to play. Richard Mergler goes, Saban retiring got everybody paid. LOL. Yeah, exactly. But Texas coming into the SEC. Let's talk about this. I want to talk about King Kunta's comment here, and then we'll probably head out because I want to watch this Boyd State game. Score prediction. I don't know, man. I'm a little bit I don't know. I think Texas wins this game. And here's my son. He's coughing in the background. What do you want, kid? Play your game. So score prediction 24-21 Texas. 24-21 Texas. That's my score prediction. I think Texas is going to run the ball a lot better tomorrow. Even with Banks out, it's a lot to ask for Gooseby. I think Texas is going to run the ball a lot better. Trey Wisner is a lot. You can tell week in and week out, he's got more patience in his running. If Texas can just limit the turnovers, no fumbles. Quinn cannot play any worse than he did against Georgia. But also in fairness, do we expect Beck to have 3 interceptions again? Right? So I just like Sark's ability to probably scheme up a great game plan for any deficiencies that we think we might have in this game. So give me Texas, man, 24-21 to win this game. I can't wait to see it, man. I might even do a live stream for the game. I might watch the game live. You guys want me to do that? You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'll do that. Albert Lynn goes Genty, Heisman, or Hunter? Hunter. And I like Genty, but Hunter, man, give me Hunter. What Hunter's done, he's ranked top 3 or 4 guy wide receiver. Yeah, top 3 or 4 guy cornerback, and he's playing 130 snaps a game. And he could be the number 1 wide receiver in pretty much 90% of the teams here in college football, and then turn around and be the number 1 cornerback on 90% of the teams here in college football. Show you how good Travis Hunter is. We have the number 1 defense in the country, right? If Travis Hunter was playing here at Texas, he's starting. He's starting, folks. Somebody's hitting the portal or they're on the bench. He is starting. If Travis Hunter's on his team right now, Manny Muhammad and Travis Hunter are probably starting, and Jahdae Barron's probably back at nickel. Real talk. Real talk. It's real talk. That's how good Travis Hunter is. Like, he's that guy, man. Like, I don't think people realize just how odd it is for him to do what he's doing. 130 snaps a game. And I'm not just saying that because my cousin plays for Colorado too, but look, I'm just being honest. He's close to breaking Barry Sanders' record, but let's keep it real. UNLV, Wyoming, look, it is what it is, man. He can only beat the players that are in front of him. I get it. But Travis Hunter, week in and week out, I think he's playing better competition. And I just think the things that he is doing is we've never seen this done since probably a guy that's playing 130 snaps a game, but Jim Thorpe. I mean, I don't know, man. Just think about it, man. He's playing both ways. We ain't seen people do this since like high school. Like, dudes do this in high school, but people laugh at it and say it can never be done in college. And this man is doing it. And honestly, staying healthy doing it too, which is crazy. But yeah, man, I'm excited about the game tomorrow, folks. Excited about the game, but excited about this class that we got, man. Just talking about this number 1 class that Texas has gotten, in the recruiting cycle. Man, shout out to Steve Sarkisian. We've seen what he has done. He's building this team the right way. I mean, it's a guy that is not only building this team from the high school ranks too as well, but he's going to the portal and he's filling in needs where the needs need to be filled. He is having players developed. which is something that we haven't seen here in quite some time, man, probably 12 to 14 years, man, if not longer. But you can see that Steve Sarkisian is definitely doing the right job here at the University of Texas, and we're lucky, Texas fans, to have him as a coach here at Texas. My wife tells me that all the time. She's very pissed at me daily because she says that we stole, their coach. You guys know my in-laws are from Alabama. My sister-in-laws went to Alabama. My two nieces went to Alabama, and I had my cousins that they went to Alabama, and my wife is a huge Alabama fan. She went to Troy in a small private college called Faulkner University. In Arlington, Alabama. One's in Montgomery, and of course, one's in Troy. They're Alabama Crimson Tide to the heart, and they are so mad at me every weekend because they said that we stole their coach from them and Steve Sarkisian. And so, hey, like Ryan Clark says, L'Oreal Sarkisian trying to ride in fire fits in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Shots fired. Anyways, man, look, if you enjoyed everything that you had on this channel, man, go hit that like button, man. Hit that like button. I got 83 people looking at this right now, man. So I should have at least 40 likes on this video, man. So like it, man. Get the algorithm going, man. I appreciate you guys dialing in. Maybe I do a halftime show for the game against Georgia, tomorrow. Maybe I'll live stream the entire game. Who knows? But thanks to you guys for tuning in, man. Put them horns up, man. Outstanding class. Texas, #1 class in the country. Appreciate you, Sark. You doing your thing, man. But we love it. Beat Georgia tomorrow and free the homie Bevo, man. Free.